Hello, everybody. This is Bernie Stroum, and welcome to my YouTube channel for our fifth segment of So You Think You Know the Red Sox with Bernie Stroum. Anyway, the reason I started this show and uh, what it is sort of like a 15, 20-minute YouTube podcast every Sunday. This is the fifth version of it. We started it on May 3rd. Is that I've been a Red Sox fan for 67 years. And I'm 75 years old. And when you hit 75, you start to think about different types of things. And one of the things is, how do I preserve all that information I have in my head about the Boston Red Sox that I've been following for 67 years? And my children, grandchildren, great grandchildren, and any other relatives I have that might want to talk about the Red Sox. Excuse me one second. Well, I'm getting a signal that I want to sneeze, so I may sneeze in the middle of my sentence, so I apologize in advance. Anyway, make a long story short, that's what this program's about. If I'm no longer here, they can go to YouTube, turn on this series of So You Think You Know the Red Sox, and I will impart and tell stories of my 67 years up to this point of being a Red Sox fan. It may not interest everybody, but that's the purpose of it. So here we go. In review, back on May 3rd, we started talking about the Red Sox in 1959, when the earliest memories I've had of them, and we've gone through the 1960s. Last week we ended with 1969, and today we're going to discuss 1970. 1970, I was 19 years old, so the truth of the matter was I was a lot more interested in chasing girls in my first year of college. Of course, I was more interested in chasing girls in college. That's why I did my first year of college 3 different times. Anyway, I was more interested in my social life than I was in baseball. So I went to Fenway Park less. I didn't pay less attention. I still picked up the sports page every morning and read about them. And I listened to as many games as possible. But when you're out on a date or out hanging around with your friends, you don't have the Red Sox game on. So I didn't listen to the Red Sox as much, and I didn't go to Fenway Park as much. But when they were on TV, I generally intended to watch them. So I did get a lot of baseball in 1970, although most of it was not in person. As far as baseball sims go, my APA baseball career went in the closet as I probably stopped playing APA around this time. And this is when my long hiatus away from the game began. I picked it up and played it every now and then. But at 1970, I don't think I played it at all. So it went in the closet, that original game. And so we're not going to talk too much about baseball sims this part of my life at 19 years old. Anyway, let's start with the 1970 season. The Red Sox are still, in my mind at the time, working off their goodwill of 1967 when they won that exciting pennant and took the Cardinals to the 7th game of the World Series. And they had a very young team at the time, and their future was bright. Well, 68, 69 was sort of disappointing seasons, and 69 was such a disappointing season, they fired Dick Williams towards the end of the year. So I guess 1970, you could say, is a new chapter in Red Sox history, a beginning of a new chapter. Eddie Casco, who was the manager of their AAA farm team, was promoted, and he became the manager of the Red Sox in 1970. Of course, 1968, Tony Conigliaro sat out the whole season. 69 was more of a comeback year where he got his baseball legs underneath him. So 1970 was a year I remember looking forward to the Red Sox having a good year. And they had a good year, basically. They just ran into a season where the Baltimore Orioles had a super team. Orioles won 108 games in 1970. No one was going to catch them. No one was going to beat them. Red Sox ended up in third place. I don't know, 20, 25 games out of first. Let me look that up because I'm curious now that I mentioned it. The Red Sox were 21 games behind the Baltimore Orioles, and they won 87 games, which wasn't great, but it was great concerning their month of May. They had a horrible month. They only won 9, and they lost 17 games. There were 8 games under 500 in the month of May. I do remember saying, what the hell's going on? They got a new manager. They can't win. But all the other months, they had winning months. As I looked that up, something I was curious about. And Eddie Casco had a pretty good team. Let's review what he had to work with. First of all, this was Karl Yastrzemski's height of his career. Yastrzemski became a superstar in 67 with that season he had. He was a good player before that. Before that, he hit 67. He had won an American League batting title. He was a good player, but not a great player. But he became a superstar in 67, and that carried over. He won a batting title in 68. The only batter in the American League to hit over 300. He won that batting title at 301, the year of the pitcher. But by 1970, the year of the pitcher was gone. Karl Yastrzemski that season almost wins a batting title. He finished batting 329, and I believe he lost on the last day of the season. He was ahead a day or two to go, and then for some reason he just didn't make it. He lost the batting title by a couple of points. But he also had 40 home runs, over 100 runs batted in, 125 runs scored, walked 128 times. I'm reading this off my notes, and had a 452 on-base percentage at just under a 600 slugging percentage. That, of course, made him a superstar, and he was the number one player on the team. He cemented his legacy as being a superstar with the Red Sox. So if you followed him in 1970, he was the guy. Alex Johnson is the guy that beat him by a small margin on the last day of the season for the batting title. Karl Yastrzemski's highlight game of that season was the All-Star game of 1970, which the National League won, but Yastrzemski got 4 hits in the game and showcased his abilities to the nation once again. Anyway, that was Karl Yastrzemski. Let's move on to my favorite player on the Red Sox at this time, Tony Conigliaro. He had his best year as a Red Sox player. He came up in 1964. He won the 1965 home run title. He had 32 home runs in 1965. Youngest player to ever do it. He was also hit 100 home runs. Youngest player ever to hit 100 home runs. He broke Mel Ott's record at the time. Pretty impressive record to beat. Tony Conigliaro, of course, was beaned in August of 1967, missed the 68 season, came back and had a Comeback of the Year award in 69, hit 20 home runs. He had a good season. But in 1970, Conigliaro hit 36 home runs, finally reached that pinnacle of his career we all hoped he would be, knocked in 116 runs. And Conigliaro, of course, becomes not only, he's always been a superstar in my mind, but he became a superstar in everyone's mind in 1970. Super Bowl tournament. Welcome in. Thank you for checking in. Thank you for listening. Anyway, Conigliaro had a great season. More about Tony Conigliaro later, but right now, Red Sox had a great team, good hitting team. They had over 200 home runs. Yastrzemski hit 40. Tony C. hit 36. Petrocelli hit 29. And that's just 105 home runs from 3 players. They hit, I think, 205 home runs with everybody else. Reggie Smith had a great year. Speaking of Tony Conigliaro, this was the only year the Red Sox had the Canigliaro brothers in the outfield at the same time. Billy Canigliaro, Tony's younger brother, made the team, and he had 18 home runs that year. Pretty talented baseball team, the baseball family, the Canigliaros were. Rico Petrocelli also hit 29 home runs, knocked in 103 runs, and he was at the pinnacle of his career. Petrocelli in the 1960s, one of the better hitting shortstops in the American League. Reggie Smith, I guess you could say, in the beginning of his superstardom, he hit 300, 32 doubles, 7 triples, 22 home runs, and scored 109 runs. This is a pretty tough offensive team. Not only did Billy Canigliaro hit that 18 home runs, he batted 271. He was a pretty good outfielder. And I remember, in my mind, it was a lot of fun seeing both those brothers playing in the outfield when just a few years earlier they were playing high school baseball in the Boston area. Red Sox pitching staff wasn't that bad in 1970, as I recall. And once again, you got to remember, I'm 19 years old. If I wasn't in school, and I did drop out of college in my freshman year, I went and got a job, and I was working full time, and then I'd get out of work at 5. I'd come home, take a quick shower. I'd run out and hang out with my buddies. Would be out all night, 12, 1 o'clock, come home, go to bed, come up and do it the next day. So I didn't really have as much time for the Red Sox in this period of my life. But I don't think anybody did. If you really look at, this is about when you stop following them every day. But I never lost interest. I did follow them in the paper, like I said, but I didn't go to every game I humanly could go to because I'd rather hang out with my friends. Ray Culp was the pitcher that was the number one starter on that team. He was 17-14 that year. Ray Culp was a great pitcher. Gary Peters was also a 16-game winner, and Sonny Siebert won 15 games. So the Red Sox had a really good pitching staff. They had a good team. They just ran into the 108-win Baltimore Orioles that nobody was going to beat. And, of course, the Yankees had a good team that year. The Yankees had the same problem with the Orioles. The Yankees had a good team, but they couldn't compete. Other players on the Red Sox knocking on the door of stardom. Sparky Lyle became the closer and the bullpen stopper in 1970. Of course, Sparky Lyle is the answer to the trivia question, what was the second worst trade the Red Sox ever made? That was Sparky Lyle to the Yankees for Danny Cater. And Sparky Lyle goes on to become the premier closer in the game, and Danny Cater is Danny Cater. Red Sox used to win a lot of games at Fenway Park. They were built for Fenway Park. They didn't win as much on the road. They were under 500 on the road, but they were almost they were 25 games or so over 500 at Fenway Park. They were built for Fenway Park with those home runs. What else do I remember about the Red Sox in 1970? As I glance at my notes, Mike Andrews had a great year. George Scott had a good year. It was just basically a good team, but they played for nothing. They were 20 games behind the Orioles. The Orioles were great. And 1970 went by without really any fanfare, except if you watched the Red Sox game, they hit a lot of home runs, scored a lot of runs. They were fun to watch. They just weren't competing for postseason baseball. For, I don't know, second and third year in a row, the Red Sox lead the American League in attendance. And from a guy who started following the Red Sox in 1959, when you could walk up to the box office and get the best seat in the house 5 minutes before the game started, to 1967 when they started to win and started to sell out. This is the fourth consecutive year. Red Sox tickets were hard to get. I think they And of course, to this almost continually from 1967 to present, the Red Sox have packed Fenway Park, which is a story. We're going to spend some time one of these weeks. We'll skip the season, talking about a season. We'll start talking about Fenway Park, because Fenway Park is a story all about the Boston Red Sox. It's been around since 1912. So it's been around for 114 years, and it's seen a lot of baseball from Smokey Joe Wood and Babe Ruth all the way to Mookie Betts. It's a great story, Fenway Park. Anyway, that's 1970. 1970 ends. You're sort of excited to see what they're going to do in 71, because they had a good team in 1970. I'm still out chasing girls, having a good time, partying all the time as a 19-year-old kid. So that's what I remember about 1970. I want to thank everybody for coming by. Next week, we'll go to 1971. And it's a lot, the story's a lot the same, 71 as 1970. But then as we approach 72, 3, 4, and 5, there are some really exciting seasons. I'm getting a little older. In that period of time, I did get married. So I was married by 1975 when the Red Sox won the pennant, went to the World Series. And so I was settled down. I wasn't out running around, and I have more personal memories of going to Fenway Park and watching all the games that I had during this period of time when I was 19, 20, and 21. Anyway, thanks for coming by. This show goes 15 or 20 minutes. We're a little over 15 minutes, so we're going to wrap it up. Hope to talk to you guys and my children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, and any other ancestors I may have over the years that hear this podcast. Anyway, look forward to talking to you next Sunday. Hope everyone has a wonderful weekend, and we'll be back tonight with Diamonds and Dice podcast with Beatles Eternally. We're going to discuss, were the dead ball teams really that good? Because in my current Red Sox historical tournament, the dead ball teams are killing it. And what better guy to talk about dead ball baseball than Beatles Eternally? So hope you'll meet us back here on my YouTube channel tonight at 10 p.m. Have a nice Sunday, everybody.